Why you think failure is bad? I'm not a believer in failure. The most successful people I know acknowledge to having encountered hurdles, endured major failures, and learned from each of these experiences. Michael Jordan admits they lost approximately 300 games. He thought he made the game-winning shot 26 times and then missed it. In my life, I have failed several times. So far, so good. Just listen these simple steps. Number 1. Why don't I believe in failure? I did not fail, Thomas Edison stated. I've discovered 8,000 techniques that don't work. He who doesn't make errors typically doesn't do anything, Teddy Roosevelt once stated. So, do you trust me now? Failure and success are inextricably linked. This is all part of a journey. The next time you fall, it may be difficult to stand up and try again, but I assure your journey will be a lot more enjoyable. You can never have a satisfying existence if you harbor a lot of bitterness and hatred in your heart. Forgive me, forget about me, and go on. I've mentioned a few really excellent folks here, all of whom have done an outstanding job. They took it one step at a time, learning from each contact, meeting, and conversation. These folks were not born knowing what to do. They dug it up the same way we did. When they got to the nice locations, people started citing people like Charles F. Kettering, who said, "Failure is a harbinger of success." Or, in the words of H. Ross Perot, "If we can't locate one, we're searching for folks who don't want to lose." That is true entrepreneurship. Number 2. Accept your flaws. It takes me back to the 1980s, when Wall Street was a popular tourist destination. When asked what their vulnerabilities were in an interview, the most prevalent response was kryptonite. If a guy and a woman happened into an interview today, I believe the ideal reply would be to say they missed the last buzzer. Then, the following time, explain why. Demonstrate what you've learned via experience. Show us how you felt about the class and what efforts you've done to improve the course going forward. I believe that the best individuals do their best, even when they are aware that they will not always win, and they train hard. They completed their studies and prepared for their big moment. Number 3. You should not be frightened to fail. On the way to success, don't be scared to fail. It is revealed how this is accomplished. My hubby often makes fun of the 4 stages to toasting pine nuts. Fry, 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 fry. How can you get optimal roasting results? Practice. Nobody is born with a gold medal from the Olympics or an Academy Award. You're on the correct road when you discover intrinsic drive based on joy, purpose, and mastery. It makes no difference how many times you fail. Continue to fail until you succeed. You may focus on the good options that lay ahead of you at each step if you understand that you have the ability inside you to attain the desired result. Number 4. Choose your audience intelligently. By removing imposters and fraudsters from your environment, you gain time, space, and energy. Then you may narrow your search to innovators and big thinkers. It enabled me to generate more possibilities and work in a better environment to make my aspirations a reality. Entrepreneurs must be cautious and explicit in their ambitions. Reaching a specific financial target is doable, but doing it with a coworker who has dubious ethics is not. If the people around you believe the rules don't apply to you, it's time to move on to another sandbox. It is not a failing to avoid harmful individuals. 5. Great leaders do not produce followers. Instead, they cultivate other leaders who inspire people to greatness. This year, I began to prioritize individuals who led and inspire me above people who simply do things well. Working with folks who offer more than they receive is something I cherish. They don't keep track of anything. These folks make me laugh every day and leave a lasting impression every time we meet. Personally and professionally, I had the good fortune to work with true masters. People who are enthusiastic about their jobs. These characteristics can be found in every facet of my life. From a roofer and his son who installed new shingles on our house to a carpenter who discovered the ideal paint color. In our backyard, a team of gardeners built a magnificent forest full of color and energy. Each of these artisans is enthusiastic about their trade and takes great pleasure in their work. So when I hear a press release that doesn't care what they say, I know it's time to drop the issue and go on. Clients can detect the difference between a doer and a professional who actually cares. Technical literacy is required, but it is no longer sufficient. If you come across a professional who is interested in what you do, treasure it like gold. Allow others to go swiftly. Life is too short for folks who are average or dishonest. Number 6. Organize and appreciate your accomplishments. The days of looking for vital documents or rummaging safes are long gone. Knowing that you can locate what you need when you need it will save you time and money. It might be tough to concentrate properly and be effective anyplace when your office or home is crowded. To accomplish much in life, you need a little army. Pause for a minute to think on how you went from failing to achieving these goals and thank those who assisted you along the road. Being my public role model meant a lot to me. This provided me with an opportunity to reflect on the wonderful effect Mom had on my life. We should also recognize and applaud what we do well as appreciate those who make it possible. Distinct priorities. Life and business are both about making decisions. With today's wealth of information, having confused priorities may be perplexing. Set a deadline, make the best decision possible, and then move on. Whether you have a day, a week, or a month to finish a job, time constraints might assist you in prioritizing elements that may impact your decision. Don't be concerned about completing everything on your to-do list. Concentrate on what is truly important. When you create objectives for yourself, you'll discover that doing less really results in more happiness and rewards. Sometimes those who take risks appear to succeed, like when Barry Bonds breaks Hank Aaron's record. A person of character and dignity, on the other hand, will not have an asterisk next to their name in history books. Aaron's outstanding accomplishments and achievements do not require footnotes. People like Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds would be terrific players and would not be embarrassed of the system. This year, give yourself a present by focusing on the significant individuals in your life who share your values and vision for the future. I believe that individuals who have realized their aspirations will accomplish a great deal in the next year. Let others battle over who will be in charge of the significant acts of kindness that occur every day. You have the ability to do good. This is why I reject the concept of failure. Everything that occurs to us, including failure, may shape us into the greatest people we can be.